Being a poet and a woman on the front line. A conversation with Yaryna Chornohuz, a Ukrainian poet who became a soldier to defend her homeland. You're listening to the podcast explaining Ukraine and its series Thinking in Dark Times by UkraineWorld. My name is Volodymyr Yermolenko. I'm a Ukrainian philosopher and journalist, and chief editor of UkraineWorld.org. In this episode, I speak to Yaryna Chornohuz, a Ukrainian poet who became a soldier to defend her homeland. Yaryna is a paramedic and a reconnaissance scout who went to the front line before Russia's full-scale invasion. Before her military experience, she was an activist organizing protests in support of the Ukrainian language and culture and against capitulation to Russia. While on the front line, she wrote 2 books of poetry which had substantial resonance in Ukraine. Her profound poetry touches upon the topics of life and death, connection with those who are no longer alive, connection to the land, and Ukraine's war experience today. Thinking in Dark Times is a podcast series by UkraineWorld. This series seeks to make Ukraine and the current Russian war against Ukraine a focal point of our joint reflection on the world's present, past and future. We try to see the light through and despite the current darkness. UkraineWorld is brought to you by Internews Ukraine, one of the largest Ukrainian media NGOs. Before we start, let me remind you that you can support us at patreon.com/UkraineWorld. patreon.com/UkraineWorld. Yaryna Chornohuz, welcome to this podcast.
Hello.
Thank you so much for agreeing to talk. So you are a Ukrainian writer who chose to be in the Ukrainian Army. And actually for our listeners, I would say that we know each other quite a long time. We met at the university at philology department. I was a professor, you were a student. And then you chose an absolutely different path. So not only writing books, although you do write books, but joining the army as a female soldier. Can you tell me how it was, how you took this decision and what followed it?
Yes. Some people are surprised by such choice, of course, but like my background in university and in humanity studies, I would say was also the thing why I went to army, because at that time in university in Kyiv-Mohyla Academy, I decided that I will choose the life path, of witnessing the real life. And in our country, if you want to witness a real life, you have to be on the front line, or you have to just be there for some time and to see, the things that are there and how our soldiers and civilians give their lives for Ukraine. So, this is very important thing to understand life and to understand your role in your country. So that was one of the reasons. Apart from that, I wanted to join army in 2014 when Russia attacked us and occupied Crimea, Donetsk and Luhansk. But at that time, I couldn't join army because I gave birth to my daughter.
How old were you in 2014?
19 years old. Yeah, I was 19 years old, and I also was a student. So I decided that I will give some time to my daughter, to grow up, and I finish university. And after that, if I'll still be needed, I'll join army. And in 2019, the war was still on. The war was in such condition that no one in the world remembered about this war, but it still was war. Every month 6-10 soldiers were killed on our front line by Russians, and I decided that I'll join. And when we will have the next hot phase of this war, I'll be ready and I'll be like prepared soldier.
I remember you were always talking and telling us that those of you who believe that this war will be short, that we can like win it in 1 year, then it will all be stopped very soon, are very naive people, and that this war can be very long, lasting for years or even decades. Do you still think in that way?
Yes, I think Russians, they commit genocide of us during these 10 years, and they won't stop because if they stop, they lose. Their empire maybe will be like broken because colonization of Ukraine and Kiev is very important part of their ideological myth, and they will do that until I don't know until they have forces, and Ukraine has no choice, has become very strong military country with strong defense, and yes, to live like all its time in war circle, as has the name of my first poetry book. We unfortunately, it's our fate, war circle.
I remember then when you made a protest, it was your unique protest. You just took a place near the presidential office. It was in 2019 or 2020? 2019?
2020, it was spring 2020.
Right. And you were also joined by some of the people, brave people, but that was your protest against this capitulation, against this mood which was spreading with the first years, months of Zelensky presidency, that Mr. Yermak will be searching for some compromises with Russia. And I remember, and you spent there days and days and months near the presidential office. And I remember that we were asking you, so what is behind, what is the force behind your staying for so many days? Because it was very difficult to imagine for ordinary people, right? That you were sleeping there, you were days and nights near the
3
presidential.
months, yeah.
And you said the phrase, just one word, stoyimo. You said stoyimo. We are standing here. So it's a kind of a word that embodies this decisiveness of the Ukrainians, even the stubbornness of the Ukrainians. And I think that this feeling is one of the strongest feeling that Ukrainian nation has, and you just formulate it in one word. Do you feel that this feeling is still there?
Of course, this feeling is 3 times stronger right now, I think. Yes, talking about that protest, well, I'm very sorry that our, politicians, officials, yes, they trapped into this thing as a fake peace, right? They believed in this fake peace before 2022, yes, and they also forgot about like all sacrifices that made our soldiers during this very calm trench war, these 10 years, yes, and by the way, one of the things why I was there for so long was also that I lost like my partner at the time. He was a soldier of 10 Brigade and was killed by a Russian sniper. It also gave me a strength to be there and talk about the things that we have to prepare ourselves to the bigger war, because Russia is going to attack us again and take more territory. Well, I felt that like his sacrifice is just forgotten by the world. And I really hope that now, after 2022 and 2023, when all world witnessed Russian terrorist acts, men and women, yes, who gave their life, yes, for defense of Ukraine. They won't be forgotten. I want to believe in that.
You joined the army, and I imagine that this is physically difficult. It's a psychologically difficult and physically difficult, right? And you pass through all these exercises to prove that you can compete with other soldiers and you can compete with men. Was there any thought in yourself that, okay, that's too much, I give up?
Well, I love difficulties. So, yes, army was one more difficulty. And yes, sometimes it was like physically difficult, but I don't remember any time when I say, oh, it's enough for me and I won't do that. When you are the only female on combat position in reconnaissance unit, you have no choice to be strong and to do more, even the more than you can, because all men, they are watching you. They can, forgive some weaknesses to each other, to men, but they never forget a weakness to a female soldier, by the way, because, well, in this army community where most people are men, well, it is like quite often considered that there is not a place for women, yes, in army, and you have to prove all the time that they are mistaken, that you can do the same job physically, that you are, yes, not exhausted after 10-15 kilometers in a field in armor. Yes, you have to do that, and I think I was okay with that because it's like my 4th year in army, and I still have inspiration for this job.
Is it changing the attitude to women? Is it changing among men, among Ukrainian men? Because, do they understand that women in the army strengthen them? Because there are women paramedics, there are women who are intelligent, who can run the quadrocopters and so on. Do you feel this change?
Well, yes, there is quite a change in this because in comparison to 2014, it's like a big progress in this like gender equality sphere. And because in that time, females couldn't be on combat position almost at all. Right now, there are not many females still on combat position, but they are, some of them, and there is a new generation of commanders who respect females who want to be same soldiers as guys, and when you are lucky to be with such commander, you can do almost anything, yes, in the very battlefield, if you prove that you quite strong and you can do that, yes, without difficulties for your unit. So yes, there is a change, but still there is also a stereotypes. There are some stereotypes in some guys of maybe elder generation, especially about females, of course. Yeah, but I would say in any army we can see the same thing.
One of the most difficult things in the war is that when you lose friends, when you lose people who are close to you. And in your book, in your poetry book, you write about it a lot. And I think this is one of the major emotions of your book, of this one, the second one, which is called Design the Defense of the Presence. And to our listeners who are probably some literary agents in English, German, French-speaking world, you should translate this book as quick as possible. So I don't know how to ask this question because all of us in that moment in the war where we are on the front line or in the rear, we are experienced that, right? The loss of a person who is friend, who is family member. I think about 80-something percent of Ukrainians lost either family members or the friends. And the biggest question is how you live afterwards, right? How you find the strength to live afterwards. In one of our trips, we met a man in Izum who lost 7 members of his family in that multi-story building in Izum, which Russians bombarded. Your response maybe is poetry, or is there anything else? You're trying to keep the memory of these people, and this book is also dedicated to those people, right? To the memory of those people. Yeah. Do you think that Ukraine really makes a little bit better job of remembering its fallen soldiers?
Well, yes, poetry is my way, yes, to express the truth, to express some ideas that are not so amusing, but which you discover on the front line. And I always write poetry in like condition of pain or something like that. So I'm not writing when I'm happy, unfortunately. Yes. Talking about memory, well, I think right now, yes, we will remember our soldiers much better than it was in 2014. We will dedicate more time to our memory, but there are like very, very many of them, yes, who passed away, and we should talk and remember them immediately, not to wait until, yes, the victory or something like that, because we will live in such condition of defense for a very long time. Yes, like this. Well, losing friends and the dearest people means to live in afterlife. There is a poem in my book which is called Afterlife. And yes, when you lose someone who you really loved, you see the world absolutely in, I don't know, not like before, in another light. Yes, and I don't know, it's difficult to describe that. Maybe it's better to read about that, or I won't wish anyone to feel that.
Let me pass to the question of the army, because there is this stereotype abroad that, well, Ukrainian army is composed of those brave people made out of steel, and they are so brave. And in Ukraine as well, there is this show made out of the army, especially during this counteroffensive. And there is a certain category of people who just wait until this, who drink for the victory and who wait until it's all done. But at the same time, when we come to the front line, we're not military, but when we come and talk to you or to people like you, we see the absolutely different mood, which is a mood of first that many motivated people are already not with us because they were killed, and there is a mood of exhaustion. Mm-hmm. Do you feel this mood, or is it just temporary, some sparks, and in general you feel that it is still Ukrainian army is still filled with highly motivated people, and the mood is strong, and everything will be fine, etc.
Well, about exhaustion, you see, our unit is on front line from August 2021. So when full-scale invasion started, it was like our 8 months of tour of duty, yes, on the east, and after that we had another 1 year of full-scale invasion, and then 1 more year. This year, yes. So it's almost 2 years on the front line, and I had different periods. Like after being a year on the front line with my unit, changing once in 3 months location, but all the time there. Yes, I felt something like exhaustion. I wanted to see my home in Kiev, yes, to see my flat, to see daughter, and that's it. And I was allowed to be in vacation for maybe a few times, like 10 days. Well, and after that, I understood that I've used to it. So I've just used to it I want to be on the front line, and I feel that front line is more home for me than anything else. It's quite a strange thing, like some psychiatrists say it's not good if you think if like war zone is your zone of comfort, it's not good. And well, right now I'm few months, yes, in vacation, with Ministry of Defense in one project, engaged in the one project, and I want to be back on the front line every other day. And there are some soldiers also who want that, because we're used to that, and it's our life right now. So yes, I would say that we're still motivated and very strong, because if we have a lot of people, yes, who get used to the front line and of engaging in fight, that means that we won't lose territory. No more, I think so.
Coming back to your book and to your poems, one of it is about Earth. It's called Zemlya, Earth or land. And I recognize something that I also felt very much in this war, is how really Ukrainians value Earth. And you write that the color of the Earth is usually believed to the color of evil, which is a black color, which is not the case for us. And you refer to one of the Ukrainian flags, which is a red and black. And it's actually, there is the stereotype that this is flag of Ukrainian nationalists of the Second World War, which is not true, because it's coming back to the First World War, to the Січові стрільці and all the rest. And there is this metaphor of this flag, that there's blood on earth, right? And I think you also use this metaphor.
Yes.
Do you consider that this earth and land is so much important for Ukrainians? This is one of these archetypes. This is this black matter that actually is welcoming in you, and you have this metaphor that people, as if they clean their hands from the earth, but actually they clean their earth from the skin from their hands.
Well, yeah. Well, when I became soldier, I discovered a nurse for myself, as I was human who was born and grew up in city, yes, in the capital. And when I became soldier, we had to, dig trenches a lot. We had to, walk a lot on very different locations and nature and fields and desert even, yes, on the south of Ukraine and sea. And I discovered the beauty of Ukrainian earth, and it became for me something very, very important, because earth is giving you a strength. When you see the beauty of your landscapes, yes, of the cities, of this Donetsk region, as you know, is very beautiful. It has very unique, nice nature, and as well as south of Ukraine, where we have this shore of Black Sea, yes, and islands there. It is very beautiful, and yes, all the time when I was a soldier and I looked on it, I understood that it is something that I can give my life for. It's very, like, I don't know, maybe strange feeling, but yes, maybe this is the reason why we are so strong, that these landscapes and earth is giving us, yes, a strength. And it's like, if we look on history, we will see that all times in these fields in Donetsk region and south of Ukraine, there was like this war, and all different generations of Ukrainians since, I don't know, maybe 12th century, yes, were defending its identity. Yes.
Yes, this also amazes me, but also frightens me, because you understand that this is the region where you had the front line, and the eternal front line. It was the front line between the Slavic tribes and the Turkic tribes, Turkic-speaking or Iranian-speaking tribes in like Middle Ages. Then there was a front line between Ukrainian Cossacks, the Muscovites, and the Crimean Tatars and other Turkic-speaking people. Then I'm reading right now the memoirs of Anatoly Dymarov, which is a Ukrainian writer, and wrote wonderful memories, fantastic, very good memories about the 20th century. And he's describing the Second World War in the places we visit all the time. It's Izum, and then his village, which is called Studenok, which we haven't by chance visited yet, but all this region, and you kind of recognize everything, like aviation, bombing, houses, and now it's all the same. But at the same time, I agree with you that this, Donetsk region, and I don't really like this concept Donbass, because it's very artificial one, created by the Soviet times. Because you understand, when you travel there, you understand that there's geographically, climatically, in terms of people, there is nothing which separates it from Kharkiv region, from Slobozhanщина, from central Ukraine. The landscape are the same.
Yes. Yeah, and if you remember this legend from, I don't know, Kiev Rus time, I think, about plant of this wild field Polin. Yes, that this legend when one small boy was taken to captivity, and when he was adult, he came to this Ukrainian wild field as a occupant, by the way, and he felt the smell of this pollen plant, and he recognized his homeland. So he understood that it is like his home, and the army in which he was, were his enemies. Yes, and that's why when I signed my books in Donetsk region, in Slavyansk, I found this pollen and took some plants inside of a book for readers, because it really has beautiful smell, and I don't afraid of this kind of romanticization, because we are allowed to express our love to this region, because we there is so much blood, of Ukrainians, for this possibility to have Donetsk region, in sovereign Ukraine.
One of your poems also talks about age, and you describe a kind of a fantasy about elderly people who are making love, and young people imagining themselves as elderly people, but at the same time with the conclusion that these young people will probably not become elderly, and because they have all chances to die when they're young. And actually this is also something, a thought that persecutes me all the time when you come to like stable countries, to Europe, which is, makes demonstrations about retirement age. I really admire people's belief that they will live until the retirement age, which is not the case in Ukraine. And not only in this war, but even previously. I mean, we didn't really think about how we become older, right? We never thought in these 30 years of independence, this was never an issue, like you become older, because, and what you do when you retire, because nobody is guaranteed that you will live until that. And this is an awful thought and horrible thought. But at the same time, maybe it's also a thought that gives you a capacity to live now at this present moment. How do you perceive it?
Well, you see, in our modern world, elder age is not is a thing which most of people don't want to see, or they prefer not to think about. Yes, this age of retirement or elder age, and our modern world says that you have to be always young. Yes, and this concept of youth. When you are engaged in war like this, like we have in Ukraine, and yes, you are young person and you're engaged, and you change this understanding of valuability of being youth, yes, of value of being youth, and understand how values to be, elder person who lives somewhere in his private house and can die with natural death, because it's really privilege, for our generation, because so much guys and girls who are 20, 30 years old, or even that, they won't witness this elder age. Then you just I noticed on myself that I started to value and to dream about being elder one day. And I can say also that lots of my comrades, they feel it like this. It's like romantic thing that, it's good to be too young, to die in young age, so no one will see you like elder. And life is very valuable, in fact. Even to live to elder age in Ukraine is great benefit, and much soldiers dream of it.
Life is very valuable, and the things, you write a lot about the things of people that have been lost and that you carry with you, and you have this metaphor in one of your poems as if you take the touch of those people who are no longer alive, and this is very, very touching in itself image. Let me ask you about literature, because I remember when we were you were presenting your book here in the space of Pen Ukraine, where we are now. I told you that your texts are more than literature, because literature is something that can exist without actually. This is how we were taught in the universities, that no matter what lives are lived by a poet or a writer, that's his or her text, that's a kind of a chef-d'oeuvre, that's a work of art, and he or she creates it for its own sake. Whereas in our case, you cannot really say this. In our case, in Ukraine, Ukrainian poets, those who are on the front line or not, you really feel how it is all, their lives is reflected in this text, and kind of this earth that you are writing about kind of talks through these texts. And sometimes you feel that the words are not enough to express something, right? How you feel this writing?
Well, yes, literature in a war, when we fight for right to extinct, on this world. So it is always special. Like we give. I would make a comparison that we give names from the beginning to all worlds.
It's like Adam who is giving
names,
right?
Yes. So we back to the very beginning of the earth. Like war is thing that return every person to the very beginning of human extinction. Existence, yes, to the human existence, to the very beginning. And here you can give name, yes, to the earth, you can give name to the, elderly age, you can give name to the love and all things in the beginning. If you seek for the truth, if you seek not for, I don't know, some things like popularity or like unimportant thing, if you want to express this truth thing, you have to give names to the all things of the world of the beginning when you witness war.
Another image from your poem that I remember, that you're talking about people who are, you looking into their eyes and you understand that these are the people who are ready to die, and this readiness is expressed in their eyes, and you kind of recognize them. Another poem is about the bullet which never misses the target. And when I read it, I ask myself about this feeling of inevitability. Like people who go to the front line, do they feel this inevitability?
Yes, inevitability is a biggest thing about existence. Yes, in war and being on front line. One of my friends just told me in one talk that we have to just accept that all of us earlier or later will die in this war, in these years. So we have to accept that. And I also have this kind of acceptance, by the way. Talking about this war, sometimes even you agree with that. You understand that this one, your friend died, then another one, then another one, and you understand that you are like in a queue, and I don't know, your mind has no choice as to accept this thing that one day we'll have to do that. And this poem is about this calm, understanding of the thing.
Difficult to talk about these things, of course, but yeah. Or maybe
this is our reality.
Yes, it's
Talk
necessary.
about that.
You cannot be silent about them, right?
Mm-hmm.
How you feel in Kiev? Because I have a feeling that you feel very, very uncomfortable, and that you told me about this as well already, that you feel that your home is on the front line. Do you feel that the difference, that more and more the cracks between people who are on the front line and who are not on the front line, do you feel that this distance or abyss increases?
Well, there is, of course, distance, and well, here I feel like here is a space of emptiness for me, unfortunately. Despite the fact that I enjoy seeing open restaurants and cafes, and that people are living life, yes, and this is not always happy people. Yes, they lost also someone in this war, but they live this calm life, and well, I'm happy to see that. But still, for me, it's space of some emptiness, because, you always want to be there in that place where you, as I say, witnessed a very sharp experience, and where you discovered great truths about life. And of course, I love this job of soldier. Like, for me, it's like profession. Yes, my second profession. And I love just, I don't know, this repeated soldier life. And I miss it somehow. That's why, yes, it's nice to be here, like for a week, 2 weeks, months. But after that, I want to be back. In Kiev, most of people respect militaries. Well, but of course we have this situation where some people are feeling somehow, how to say that, guilty that they are not engaged in the war. That's why they try, yes, to hide their eyes when they see uniforms, or they see, people who lost his hands or legs. Yes, but well, this is quite natural. For me, most important not to be, how to say that. In Ukraine, we call it перевоювавши.
Too overwhelmed with the war.
Yeah, it's like slang word. Too overwhelmed, like you are so soldier. You are going and say that everyone is guilty to you because you were engaged in war and in combat actions, and they are not. For me, it's unacceptable. I prefer to remain like a human, and to be able to have, normal dialogue with any person, despite military or civilians.
Let me move, and maybe this is last part of our conversation, from the existential things to more maybe technical things. Mm-hmm. So you are the soldier on the front line. You see, you are engaged in battles. You work as a paramedic, but also you work as a reconnaissance.
Reconnaissance soldier, drone
pilot. What does Ukraine need to win this war? Because we hear more and more that Russia is also learning very well, and that it is adapting, and it is still has, power in the air in terms of aviation, in terms of helicopter, but also in terms of drones. What does Ukraine need? What does it need from its own society, from international partners? What is your perception?
Well, of course, we need more armored vehicles, especially medical armored vehicles, just to be able to save lives of wounded paramedic and wounded soldiers and paramedics who evacuate them, like M113 is one of the best armored vehicle. And apart from that, what is maybe more important, we need more cannons, we need long-distance artillery, we need F-16, we need aviation. We need much resources, more to defend us and to make like Iron Dome, on our territory, and to make Europe safe from this Russian army, because if they occupied us for 3 days, as they told in their propaganda, I am sure they would try to occupy Poland and Baltic countries, and maybe they would go even further. So for Volt, it's important to understand that our defense, it's not only defense of Ukraine, it is defense of democratic principles and sovereignty of all countries, of especially East Europe and further all Europe. Because I remember when a few years ago I saw a video from Russian television where there was a track like there was a scenario how Russian army is going to the ocean, and it's like witnessing Atlantic Ocean on the shores of France or something like that. So yes, for some people it's quite, I don't know, looking cringe, but for them it's one of the scenario. All depends of their possibilities and how far we allow them to occupy its empire.
Yes, and Europe is actually unprotected. The only and doesn't want to accept that. The only protection of Europe is United States. And what if something happens with the United States? Trump or something else, or Europe is protected by Ukrainians and by Americans, and it's very unpleasant to recognize this. But you're a drone pilot, right? And the drones are very important. And we hear more and more news that Russians are constructing the drone, factories. Do you have the impression that we have a risk that they will beat us in the air in terms of drones?
Well, I'm not sure about them that they will beat us with drones, of course. But yes, we have to engage here more drones, especially these FPV drones, like these kamikaze drones. We need them. They attack us with drone kamikaze, yes, with killing drones like every other week, right? And yes, we need them. And right now, Russians, they have increased this army of drones. It's true, and that's why we need good radio blockade systems. Not only drones, but also radio blockade systems to defend us from them.
And maybe the last question: what gives you strength?
I think first of all my daughter. When I think about her, I understand that I have to be strong and have to try to survive. And family, my husband, who is also a soldier. I think that two of them are also all things that I believe in. Like, luckily, I have much things that give me strength.
Yaryna Chornohuz, thank you for this conversation.
Thank you for this conversation.
This was a podcast explaining Ukraine and its series Thinking in Dark Times by UkraineWorld. This series seeks to make Ukraine and the current Russian war against Ukraine a focal point of our joint reflection on the world's present, past and future. We try to see the light through and despite the current darkness. My name is Volodymyr Yermolenko. I'm a Ukrainian philosopher and journalist and chief editor of UkraineWorld. UkraineWorld is brought to you by Internews Ukraine, one of the largest Ukrainian media NGOs. You can support us at patreon.com/UkraineWorld. You can also support our volunteer trips to the frontline areas at PayPal, ukraine.resisting@gmail.com. ukraine.resisting@gmail.com. Stay with us and stand with Ukraine.